What might a full kayaking year look like in Sweden? In all months, all seasons. It's what we call a Harry year, and using my paddle log, I'll show this year as it looked like for me. I'm Patrick, the paddler behind there on the water channel, and I've had a fantastic paddle year, and in fact I just completed my Harry year in the last hours. The Harry year began well, with me completely failing to pull off my signature paddle swirl move, which I normally do just fine. Well, at least we had a fantastic winter paddle out in the archipelago, and it was not easy to find open water at the beginning of this year at all here in Stockholm where I live. There's a city hall. As you can see, all the water there is frozen over, which often happens, but this year it was much more frozen over than usual in so many places. End of January, with some friends, we did manage to go out and find some open water, and some of the snow had melted away, and I took the opportunity to take a walk in the Baltic Sea water there. So a Harry year. We're now in February. A Harry year is, well, in Sweden it's called a Harryår. It is basically the concept of paddling or kayaking once a month, every month of a full calendar year. And it might sound easy enough, but actually, as you saw in the previous video clips there, it can be quite difficult because ice blocks so many waterways, and you might not be able to actually find a place to go paddling at all. But by now we're in March, and with friends we have decided to check out this cave right here. Another paddler knew of this location, and I had planned a paddle route which took us past this cave. It's called Knappelskär.
Det här gör vi inte varje dag.
We don't do this every day, I say. It's Knappelskär in Nynäshamn, south of Stockholm, and we do a little bit of cave climbing here while exploring on a quite cold day. It was cold and windy.
Yes.
But this location was well worth it.
Yes. Här har vi grejer.
The rocks over here are, well, they make for some quite interesting landscapes. And in this video, basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to show my full Harry year. Not exactly every paddling trip, but almost all of them for the whole year, chronologically, showing different locations, different kayaks, different people, different events, different countries, different locations in Sweden. And yeah, Sweden is not always the warmest of paddling climates. You do need to be out in a dry suit and full winter gear and safety gear and so on during much of the year. But as we head into April here, it had actually become a lot warmer, and by now I'm out with the group of kayak leaders to be here. We're in our kayak leader training through the Swedish Outdoor Association in Stendörren, a very popular nature reserve. And it had actually been quite warm right before this. It had been unexpectedly warm all of a sudden. But for our trip, we actually managed to hit the cold spell. So we had -2 at night, and it was quite chilly. Then it was warm again, unexpectedly warm just the day after. So that was a bit fun, but at least we kicked off the kayak leader training. And here in May, I'm now kicking off spring. It's still cold, definitely dangerously cold in the water, but there's no ice or anything like that anymore. And I was kicking off a night paddle. Now, further on in May, all of a sudden we have the really warm weather. We had early, really warm days. This day I think had 22 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm for this time of year. And a normal summer day in Sweden could actually be about as warm as this. You can see I'm still donning full safety gear here. I'm still in a dry suit, even if it's actually summer temperatures in the air, because the water, the seawater here, is lethally cold still. And on this day, I couldn't resist going out for a solo paddle. I'm in the Stockholm archipelago, and I paddled to Husarö, a bit further out in the archipelago, and I actually took a ferry back home, or at least back to the coast, because I wouldn't make it in time otherwise, before dark or catching the last transport. And I actually had the ferry entirely to myself, which was awesome. The first time I've experienced that. Imagine having a whole floor of a ferry just for packing up your kayak stuff. They offered me to use the entire ferry basically to just sort out my kayaking gear and such. And here I'm going on another ferry and actually seeing the cruise ferry going internationally there as I'm heading home. That was a fantastic paddling trip. And not long after that, I went out with my first practice trip, if you will, as a kayak leader in training, where I helped lead a group of paddlers out to more or less these areas, actually. Not exactly where I had paddled, but close by. And we had a fantastic couple of days kayak camping and seeing the beautiful archipelago over there. And of course, paddling inside a shipwreck, as you saw there. I continued the late spring, not quite summer yet, but I took out a new kayak I had purchased to paddle from this castle in Skokloster to Uppsala. And I had a beautiful paddling trip with some fantastic evening paddling and a lot of beavers. Then comes June, and I'm taking out a portable kayak again. In this case, I'm paddling from Vadstena, further southwest in Sweden. It became a really choppy day as I paddled to Motala on Sweden's second largest lake, and then continues another adventure. Taking part of a canoe training camp. I and a friend, we're actually in inflatable kayaks here, but we were there to document the canoe training event, which took place on River Dalälven, further north in Sweden. Here's one of the organizers, and another of the organizers, and this was quite an event to see. There were not quite 50, but just below that, I think, participants in this training camp, and paddling both in white water and on calmer water, with a lot of learning opportunities. There will be more of that. Here we have a city paddle, which I helped lead, and then a bit of solo paddling again. I paddled 3 different cities in one day. Then I said hello to my friend the Moose. Always very amusing to meet old acquaintances. And a little bit of nice, calm river paddling on a day which was otherwise quite windy. So we took shelter here on this creek. Fun day. And I went with another friend to the southernmost tip of the archipelago at Landsort in the Stockholm archipelago. And managed to get out of this passage, which I was too curious not to explore. But while it was calm going in, it was not calm going out. So a little bit of work heading out there. What we're seeing in front of me there is about 100 kilometers towards the south before you hit the island of Gotland. Otherwise it's just open water. And this is the Baltic Sea. As you can see by now, we're actually no longer in dry suits. By now the water temperature is warm enough that you can go out paddling more freely, which is great for flexibility there. Here's a kayak camping trip in other cities, from Ljungsbro to Linköping with a friend, and some kayak camping that was quite interesting, and where I could make good use of my efficient paddling technique there. After the trip, after we had paddled between 3 locations, I took a trip to Norrköping as well on the way back. Here I'm putting my Inuit Race 500 fast inflatable kayak to use on a nice evening trip, but also during Swedish Air Kayak Day, which I'm an organizer for. And we had a fantastic day, even if it was a bit cloudy. We had some great people and a lot of fun with a mix of kayaks exploring the waters west of central Stockholm. Really a lot of fun. The Swedish Air Kayak Day is an annual event, so if you are interested in Stockholm next year, make sure to check it out and join us there. Then in August, actually, I completed my first 2,000 kilometers paddled at this moment right here, again in Stendörren, or near Stendörren Nature Reserve. And with a friend, I went paddling on a fantastic warm day. We actually met a group of paddlers from the Swedish Outdoor Association by happenstance. And here is, well, not by happenstance, this is actually my course group again of kayak leaders in training, and we're practicing re-entry and rescues and such as we are now paddling in the northern archipelago in Stockholm. We had some great weather here as opposed to the early trips, which were rougher. And here's actually my final practice trip as a kayak leader. You have to do 4 trips where you actually lead a group or help lead a group during part of the activity. We had a fantastic kayak camping weekend in the archipelago, and just an amazing group. Fantastic weather for some of it, although it was quite windy during much of the trip, so we had to take a more sheltered route. Here I am deciding to go out for a solo paddle and explore the southern archipelago in Stockholm, which ended quite rainy, and I was by now in a dry suit for safety because I was solo paddling, but it's still warm enough mostly to be able to paddle without dry suit at this point, unless you're doing rescues or you're paddling in more difficult circumstances. And here, this is part of the final hours of our kayak leader course. I'm leading the group here, and that was when we actually completed our kayak leader course through the Swedish Outdoor Association. Here's a friend who was going to paddling camp as well further out. He was paddling there, and I met him along the way to help him with one of the carries and to paddle alongside for some of the stretch. Then I took public transport back. Here I am in Gävle, outside Gävle on the Baltic Sea, in an area I had never paddled before, with a friend. And here we're also helping organize night paddle in Gävle during a light festival in the city, Ådraget, which was quite an amazing event. So much fun. And here we are being shown, 2 paddlers from Stockholm are being shown the local lakes there. Thank you for that. And I wanted to get in some creek paddling before it got too cold. as well. So I went on a bit of a challenging creek paddle, which later became a long lake paddle. And because of the creek challenges and delays, I ended up paddling in the dark, which was kind of fun because here, as you can see, I actually found 2 amphibious aircraft on the water.
2 aircraft here. Something I've never seen while paddling.
And now I head on to another creek in the dark.
I'm not sure if this is visible at all on camera, the way the mist kind of rises up towards me as I paddle. But it is the first time I experienced that in the dark. And it is very cool. There's an alarm.
Well, that was quite an experience with the mist rising up. Unfortunately hard to see on camera. But here I'm actually paddling in Poland, experiencing, well, pirate ships in Gdansk, and being on a sandbank in Warsaw.
Walking on a central sandbank like this in the middle of a river in the center of the city, or in the main river of the city. So you always get to see some new stuff, and that's what I enjoy about kayaking. But
well, that was something. And here's the largest castle in Europe, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Malbork in Poland. And this is another UNESCO World Heritage Site actually, as we're heading into October. I went paddling a bit, and then I went exploring the copper mine, which is quite famous in Falun in Sweden. And if you ever have the chance to visit, definitely don't miss the opportunity to go down into the mine. It's a historic site. It's a really old mine with so much history. I'll tell you more about that in another video. But it's quite an experience, and for me, paddling here, it was my 50th location in my Paddling in 100 Cities project, and seeing this mine was just amazing. Then I helped organize a kayak leader and other outdoor leaders activity, and I couldn't resist having a short paddle on this tiny stretch of water. Might be my shortest paddle ever, but I really wanted to see these light effects, and it was worth the effort. Finally, I was actually ill during this year's Swedish Sea Kayak Day, which I have otherwise participated in during multiple years. But
är det någon form av dag idag? Är det någon form av paddlingsdag idag? Kan man tänka sig? Jag har hört talas om liknande. Ha så kul.
I actually took a walk at least to get some fresh air, and managed to get a little bit of footage of the paddlers so I could support the event somehow. Now here's some solo paddling, as it's really
feeling the wind.
Cold.
It is possible that I might not go up on the island. We'll see in a moment.
Well, I'm in Sundsvall, quite a bit further north on the Baltic Sea coast in Sweden, and that was a challenging paddle, but well worth it. And not too far from there, in Söderhamn, I had my what I called my most absurd creek paddling trip ever, but that was a lot of fun. And by now, winter hit. So in November, it's now snow and winter and cold again. And actually, as this video ends, I have just completed my Harryår through my last paddle of the year in December, which is really nice actually. I just got back. That was quite something as well, but I will show you that very soon in another video, so keep an eye on this channel because I just got back from that paddle. And with that, I've completed a Harryår, which was amazing for 2024. What was your paddling year like? Let me know in the comments. And thank you for going through all of these memories with me. It's been a fantastic year.